Yo, what's up, folks? You know, let's start with this before I run the video. You know, I watched a YouTube video this morning where, you know, once again, one YouTuber was defending himself against another YouTuber. And like, you know, I saw little clips of the video who kind of attacked him. And I don't want to mention any names because I don't want to get involved in any YouTuber drama. But how about we, you know, lose this arrogant, holier-than-thou, condescending YouTuber, you know, like these personalities that think they're better than everybody else. They think they're more talented. I don't know what they think. You know, they think this is their space, and they kind of get to the point where they get to be these big YouTubers and they talk to you like you're an idiot, you know. I just can't stand it, and I can't stand when they attack one another. You know, it's like, if you're doing YouTube full time, you should be like humbled by that, you know, because guess what? You're just making YouTube videos. You're not making a movie. You're not making a documentary. You're just making YouTube videos. And you might be like amazingly talented, and I'm not going to take that away from you, but there is absolutely no reason to condescend or to be kind of snarky with anybody. Like, there's no reason for that, you know. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind, to have some kind of empathy, to be compassionate. When people ask you questions, don't treat them like they're idiots or, you know, act as if they're stupid. Like, they're just asking you a simple question, and you have no idea who's coming to your channel. And by the way, there are plenty of people who don't have a lot of followers on YouTube or who are not big YouTubers who are working on major films, you know, doing Netflix work or HBO or, you know, working with Roger Deakins or, you know, Spike Lee or people like that. Like, you have no idea who's dealing with you. You know, you have no idea what people are doing in their lives when they come to your YouTube channel. They take some time out of their life and come and listen to you. Like, don't be an asshole. So I'm just saying, the energy that you bring at YouTube or anywhere on social media or anywhere online, you know, anywhere on the internet, the energy that you put forth, the things that you say, the comments that you make, you should think, would I do this if I were in person? If I was face to face with this individual? If I had to look them in their eyes? If I had to feel their energy, would I say this? Would I have this attitude? That's all I'm saying. You know, I think if you check yourself and, you know, consider that, I think it would be a much nicer place on the internet. I'm just saying. So I'm not going to talk about this anymore. Let's get to the real part of this video. Enough of that, you get what I'm saying, and onward we go. Let's talk about some of the advantages of actually having something in mind, like an actual story in mind, when you're thinking about buying a camera, or if you already have a camera. And you know, when you actually have a subject that you want to share with people, that you want to put out there and contribute in some kind of way, it takes a lot of that anxiety or, you know, that angst out of the equation of choosing a camera, or, you know, trying to think about what camera is best for me, or what do I need, you know, is it dynamic range, is it low light capability, is it autofocus? Like, all of that stuff starts to become less and less important when you're thinking about sharing something like, you know, for example, what if a friend of yours is having like a mental health breakdown or something like that? Like, it's a camera. You know what I mean? Like, it's not gonna, you know, fly like a plane. It's not gonna go shopping for you. It's not gonna clean your oven. You know, it's not gonna vacuum for you. It's not gonna do anything for you but make film or take pictures. It's a camera. You know, you're still gonna have to set your white balance. You're still gonna have to know about your composition. You're still gonna have to choose the way you want the frame to look and get your proper aperture and stuff like that. Like, you're still gonna have to know things, even if you bought like a Blackmagic OG for 150 bucks on eBay. It's basically the same process. Like, somebody's kind of losing touch with reality. They don't know why they're here or where they're going or what to do. They're feeling more and more isolated. They're starting to disappear from their friends, you know, like the groups that they hang out with. People who generally see them are not seeing them all of a sudden, and people are worried about them, but they're just retreating. They're not responding to messages. They don't want to talk about it. Like, sometimes it's good to create art based on something like that, because the thing is, there are probably, like, I don't know, thousands and thousands of people going through stuff like that. And so when somebody sees somebody who takes, you know, that type of difficult story and they turn it into something relatable and something that's beautiful and something that's inspiring, it just, I think it switches something in their brain. I mean, it definitely switches something in their heart, and they start to engage, because art heals, right? I know it's a cliche, and I know it's trite, and people say it all the time, but it's actually true. Art does heal. I don't know, I watched a video this morning, and I thought, how many camera videos can you watch? And what are you looking for? You know, what are you getting out of this? You know? And then I thought about, you know, everybody thinks they want to make art. You know, everybody thinks they want to make a movie, or, you know, in my life, everybody thinks they want to write a play. They think they want to write songs or whatever, but they really don't, because they have no idea what that even means. You know, like, you could find the perfect camera for you, right? But what difference does it make if you don't have something really important to you to share? Or, you know, what if you're interested in things like racism or xenophobia, you know, homophobia, you know, misogyny, anti-Semitism, things of that nature. You know, maybe you want to talk about what's going on in Gaza and Israel. You know, maybe you want to talk about the Ukraine. Maybe you want to talk about the debate the other day between, you know, the two presidential candidates and what happened and how you feel about it. Maybe you want to express something that you think is a point of view that is important for people to hear. I mean, it could be anything. But my whole point is that when you have something like that on your mind, it's going to make the camera kind of much less important to the equation of what you need to present these stories. I can take things that people don't want to talk about, and I can try to turn them into something beautiful and entertaining and compelling, and something that people actually want to receive and want to talk about and want to watch, to hear, to see, to feel. I take that as a gift. But the thing is, most people, they're looking for these cameras, they're looking for audio equipment, they're looking for lights or whatever, but they are spending such a tiny little amount of time, like the percentage of time that they spend on thinking about what they want to share as opposed to the gear. I mean, come on. It's like 99 to 1%. Like, I believe that. I believe most people are not thinking about that story that they want to tell. You know, they're not thinking about storyboarding a story or writing a script. You know, when you have an important story to share, you know, the thing is, all these cameras are so good, so it doesn't really matter which one you get. Like, I can't understand if you're choosing between, say, Micro Four Thirds and full frame or something like that, because personally, I think there's really only one huge difference between the two. Well, there's a couple of differences, but there's only one gigantic difference, and I think the gigantic difference is the low light capability. You know, I think full frame definitely has a better low light capability. And so if you're going to be shooting where you don't have control of the lights, where you're outdoors a lot, where you're going to be in environments where you're not quite sure, you know, what it's going to be like, I think full frame is going to be an advantage. But then on the other hand, Micro Four Thirds is going to be an advantage if you're not running around with a gimbal, if you need more stabilization, if you need a little bit more capability of just running around with the camera. Although I have to say, my Panasonic S5 has incredible stabilization, so I don't know. But you know what? I guess what I'm saying is it's not a big deal. you know, unless you are completely preoccupied with codecs and things like that, and you need all the things that the GH7 offers you, like internal ProRes RAW and stuff like that. But how about the fact that if you're using DaVinci Resolve, that doesn't mean anything to you because you can't even, it won't even recognize it. And so you're going to have to go and use a different editing program, and that's a pain in the ass. And so, I don't know. I just think story is king all the time. And people say it, right? Like, I used to watch these videos where people would say content is king. And content is king, but then they would make the next 25 videos about camera reviews and trying to tell you how important it is to choose this particular camera because it's like the greatest camera in the history of the world. But then 2 weeks later, there's another camera that's like the greatest camera in the history of the world. And you're like, what the fuck? I think most YouTube channels are obsessed with being successful within the realm of YouTube. And it works because people are addicted to it, you know? I find that people are way less addicted to videos like listening to Roger Deakins talk for an hour and a half about his process of shooting 1917 and why he shot it that way. And, you know, it's more of a spiritual kind of conversation as opposed to technical. And there's plenty of technical stuff in there too. Like there's a million videos of Roger Deakins talking about all of his different, you know, projects. And there's plenty of technical stuff in there, but I would say it's 10% technical, 90% story. You know what I mean? Like, which camera am I supposed to choose when in fact it doesn't even matter? You could have chosen that camera, you could have chosen this camera, you could have chosen that camera. It doesn't make a difference, you know? The Canon R5C, the Fuji SX2S, the, you know, Panasonic S5 2X, the Sony A7S III, like they're all good. The FX3, the A6700, the FX30, it doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. All these cameras are cool. The thing that pushed me to be that committed and that all the way in was that I felt this incredible need to tell the story, to get started and then to just get into it, you know? And then I took all kinds of shortcuts because I didn't care about the details. I didn't care about any of it. Once I had enough to get out there and shoot, I just went out and I shot every day. And I storyboarded and I applied my theater knowledge, my storytelling knowledge to filmmaking. And at the same time, I devoured all the videos, Full-Time Filmmaker, Mark Bone, Potato Jet, Brandon Lee, like everybody. You know, I learned so much from everybody. But I was able to kind of, you know, like receive all this information because I was out there doing it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with having a hobby and just wanting to accumulate all this gear and, you know, test out different lenses and things like that and do the science, you know, and check out the dynamic range and be like Gerald Undone, which you can never be like Gerald Undone because he is so highest level of dopeness of any of us. But you could try to be something like that, and that's cool. But I just think most people, in my opinion, most people get cameras because they think they want to tell a story. They think they want to make a movie. They think they want to do a documentary. They think they want to have something to say and share it with people. But I think a lot of people don't even understand what that entails, what that takes, you know, because then you have to kind of break yourself from this habit of worrying about gear and start to really focus on what do you want to say? What is the trajectory of this story? You know, where does it begin? What happens along the way? And where is it going? And what's the point, you know? What is the conclusion? You know, what's the exposition and what happens during the whole story? Like, what's the conflict? What's the resolution? How do people solve problems? How do they get through these obstacles, these incredible things, these mountains that they have to climb, these storms that they have to get through? And I'm using metaphors right now. But I'm just saying, it's like you have to start to really focus on that kind of stuff. Dialogue, you know, you have to develop characters, you have to think about locations, you have to think about the story that you're creating. I have no interest any longer in watching any of these videos about the technical capabilities of cameras. None. And it will be so easy for me to buy another camera if something happens to my camera or if I feel that I need to upgrade for some reason. I ain't going to spend all that time watching all these videos because I know what I want. I know what I need. I don't need to watch all these videos. I ain't thinking, like I got a Panasonic S5. I don't need any other camera. I mean, I have a GH5 in case something happens to this camera, but both of them are equally awesome. And the reason is that they both can get me great images, and they both are relatively small, and I have lenses for both of them. I could shoot anamorphic with the S5 if I want, because I have these two amazing anamorphic lenses. Like, there's so much I could do with these cameras, so I ain't thinking about cameras anymore. I'm thinking about stories. I'm thinking about, you know what? The world is so fucked up right now. Can I create a story to inspire people, to make people feel better, to engage people, to make people think about their neighbors, their friends, their family, their own lives, like to realize that there are so many things at risk right now, like so many of our liberties, our freedoms are at risk. Like, can I create some kind of story that everybody will listen to? Not just people who think like me, but everybody on both sides of the equation, or all the sides if there are multiple sides. Like, can I do something like that? I don't know. I think I can. The camera has one job: to document the story that you're trying to tell, to allow you to get it out there and, use all the skills that you've learned. How to get your focus together, how to get your white balance and your ISO settings, and how to use the actual dynamic range so that you can shoot in certain scenes that might be challenging for the camera. And you've decided, I got a camera that can handle stuff like that, so I'm privileged. Like, what are you trying to do when you're looking for all these cameras? What is your end game? What are you hoping to do with the camera once you get it? That's what I'm curious about. Because I think a lot of people are just buying stuff, but they don't even have a plan, I mean, they might think, oh, I'm going to do weddings, or I'm going to do bar mitzvahs, or I'm going to do corporate work, or I'm going to do interviews, or I'm going to make movies, or I'm going to make documentaries. But are you really? Because in my opinion, you're like 90% thinking about specs of a camera, and maybe 10% thinking about a story that you want to share. But I'm just saying, mostly think about the story. And I guess this is selfish now. I'm being selfish. But my hope is that you're going to start to tell stories that are contributing, stories that are going to bring us all together. I think now, more than ever before, and I'm going to try not to be political right now, but I know the Supreme Court handed down some decisions this week that, in my opinion, from the way I look at the world, are very scary. I think that we're in a very precarious place right now in this country. But I think the biggest problem is that we are so divided, and I'm not saying anything like, oh, people are going to go, wow, we're divided. I didn't know that. Like, we're so divided. And I'm somebody who believes that art, more than anything else, is the thing that can bring us together, Like, I don't need to agree with everybody who's my friend, I don't need to look at the world the same way as everybody who I talk to or who I share space with. But I do need to know that people are going to let one another live. Get past all that technical stuff. Tell the story that you're telling. Make sure the camera works, whether you get a GH7 or an S9 or whatever. If you, think about, like, if you want to tell stories that have long monologues like this, you might not want to choose the S9 because it's only going to let you shoot for like 10, 15, or 20 minutes, something like that. You might want an S5 2X because it's got unlimited recording in 4K. If I want unlimited recording, I'm going to shoot in 1080 with this camera because my camera has a 30-minute limit for 4K. But I don't really ever go past 30 minutes. It's very rare. But if I was shooting like, interviews or things like that, or events, I might need unlimited recording. But then you got to make sure you can plug in the camera and get unlimited power too. And you also have to make sure that probably you could shoot to an SD drive, an SSD drive, and not just an SD card, unless you get massive cards. But you want to make sure you have enough storage, you want to have enough power. And so these are things that you do need to think about. I hope that you make a documentary or a narrative film about everything that's going on in the world right now, because I would love to hear that. I would love to see it. Like, I wish, like, a bunch of people would write about the same subject from different points of view and make beautiful art with it, make something that we all could be proud of, and that we're all inspired by, and that we're all moved by, and so that we can all, like, see it together in a theater, like all sit together and cry together, you know what I mean? Because empathy, compassion, we have all these things in common. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, right? We all feel things, we all want the same things. We want to be happy, we want to be safe, we want to be fed, we want to be indoors, we want to be cool when it's hot outside, we want to be warm when it's cold outside, we want to be loved, right? We want to have opportunity. I'm going to say it again, we want to be loved. I'm spending my time on a story. That's it. I'm crafting a story, I'm developing characters, I'm developing a world. That's what I'm doing, that's what I'm interested in. And if you're interested in that, you're probably going to like my channel. And thank you for that. I appreciate that. And I'm just saying, get the tech stuff out of your way. Don't worry about it. Like, you know, do your due diligence, pick something that works for you, pick something that you can afford, and then forget about it. Forget about it for a while and just tell your stories. And that's all I'm trying to say. So I've been weaving this in and out of this video, and that's fun. And so this video is for you. And yeah, that's all I wanted to say today.